I was told to never close all the doors in a room. I now know why. It has always been a rule in my house. You must leave at least one door or window open in any given room of the house whilst you are in it. It was drilled into me since I was old enough to reach for the door handle. I didn't understand why for a while. My parents usually weren't superstitious in the slightest. I even saw from pictures that they owned a black cat well before I was born. I rarely, if ever, questioned them, though. My parents were kind, calm people, but if I ever came close to breaking the rules, or even asking too many questions, they would turn serious, and wouldn't let me off without a 30-minute lecture first. I didn't actually believe in the superstition, thanks in part to them not telling me what the consequence would be for not doing so, but I didn't want to anger them, even if it meant leaving a window or door open in the cold. When I was 19 years old, however, my parents had gone to my grandmother's house to see my aunt who was visiting from Australia. I quickly volunteered to watch over the house while they were gone, which seemed to make them happy. In reality, I was just using this as an opportunity to have my girlfriend of 6 years over. Anya's father didn't like me very much, so I wasn't in her house very often. My parents didn't allow guests, so we mostly saw each other at school. That weekend though, I invited her over and she arrived less than an hour after my parents had left. She knew about the rule, of course. But that was mostly for me venting about it to her. From her perspective, I probably just had weird parents. Maybe if she had taken it more seriously, or if I was more strict, then what happened next could have been prevented. After a while of watching movies, she went to use the bathroom, but 30 minutes later she still hadn't left. I began to grow worried, asking her if she was alright, and when I got no response, I opened the door. She wasn't inside. I looked around the room and realized that she must have closed the window while she was in there. And now she was gone. This is when it hit me. My parents were right all along, and this was a bad way to find out that the superstition was real. Her disappearance was a big thing. Most people assumed that her father had killed her, on account of him being a big, mean Russian guy who gave everyone death glares, as well as the fact that he frequently got into arguments with his daughter. The investigation turned up nothing, of course. I didn't say anything, but I think my parents suspected something. I joined the military not long after. I guess I just hated being in the house where she disappeared, and I somewhat harbored some resentment to my parents, and more so myself, for not being more strict with the rule. I wish I had stayed in contact with them, though. They unalived in a car crash last month. They left me the house, among other things. Yes, I hated the house. But it was big, and I hadn't had any great places to stay in the 5 years since I had left. I spent last night getting drunk. That's how I've spent a lot of nights since I got discharged, but being in the house where I lost Anya wasn't good for me, and I took to the drink especially hard last night. In my drunken state, I decided I'd reunite myself with her. I walked into the bathroom, closed the door and window. I immediately felt a wave of nausea, but not from the alcohol. Realizing what I'd done, I sobered up pretty quickly. I looked through the window to see that it was pitch black outside, despite the fact that the sun had only started to set when I had entered. When I opened the door, I stepped inside the kitchen. But that wasn't right. The bathroom was located near the front of the house. The door slammed shut behind me, but when I opened it, I was in my upstairs bedroom. Then my living room, then my basement, then the guest bedroom. I frantically tried to get out of the madness, twisting and turning the handle, each door only leading me deeper into the terrifying mystery of the house. Suddenly, I swung open a door and was met with a chilling sight. A room, exactly like the bathroom from 5 years ago, down to the very last detail. It was untouched, frozen in time. I felt an icy chill creep up my spine. My heart pounded in my chest as I took a hesitant step forward. There, on the tile floor, was a familiar hair tie, one Anya used to wear. I reached down to pick it up, my fingers trembling, when I heard it, a faint, almost indistinguishable sound that made my blood run cold. A giggle. Anya's giggle. I looked around the room in horror, the echoes of her laughter ringing in my ears. It was then that I noticed the mirror. It was reflecting an image, but it wasn't mine. It was Anya's. She was standing there, her back towards me. Then, she slowly began to turn. Terrified, I closed my eyes, bracing myself for whatever horror I was about to witness. I held my breath and counted to 3, before opening them again. But the mirror was empty. Anya? I whispered, but received no response. A cold gust of wind hit me, making me shudder. The lights flickered before shutting off completely, plunging me into an unnatural darkness. Suddenly, the bathroom door slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. I tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. I was trapped. Feeling panic surge within me, I pounded on the door, screaming for help, but my cries echoed unanswered. And then, an ominous whisper filled the room. You broke the rule. Suddenly, the bathroom mirror lit up with an eerie glow, casting a ghostly light around the room. I turned around slowly, my heart pounding, and found myself staring into the reflection of the mirror again. But this time, it wasn't Anya's reflection I saw. It was mine. But, different. My reflection grinned back at me, with a smile so wide and unnerving, it was grotesque. Its eyes gleamed with an unholy light. I stood, frozen, as my reflection reached out its hand, pushing against the mirror, which began to ripple like the surface of a pond disturbed by a thrown stone. Slowly, my reflection started to push its way through, the glass bending and distorting around its form.